I have an algae nightmare on my hands right here. And I'm not kidding when I call it a nightmare. Check this out. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we're going to do a few updates around the fish room. So number one, Running River has had one heck of a hair algae outbreak. And while I have tried to take some steps before that are purely manual, like removing things, adjusting some settings, just frankly, I get a lot of light through here, and because I'm not using a lot of very high demand plants, even though I don't have a lot of light in this tank, it is kind of easy for an outbreak to occur, and most of my previous cleaning crew is no longer in there. So I wanted to conduct a little experiment. All this algae could be removed in a number of different ways, and the way that we're going to take is fish. I actually like using maintenance crew fish. I'm a big fan of reticulated SAEs, I'm a casual fan of standard SAEs, and I am like a closet fan of Florida flagfish. I couldn't get reticulated SAEs at one of my local fish stores quite yet, so I had to sub out for the standard SAE, which you can see this little bag floating. I got 5 little guys in there, and what we're going to see is how long will it take those 5 teeny tiny fish, these ones right here in the bag, to tackle the nightmare. And I think this is going to be kind of a fun experiment, because there's lots of ways we could tackle algae, but I think for most of us, we tend to look at maintenance crews as a way to proactively keep our algae at bay, or solve really bad problems like this one. So let's see, by just fish, how long will it take for them to get this tank cleaned up? I won't take any other measures. I'll keep to my normal fertilization, normal fish feeding, maintenance schedule, everything. Everything will stay the same. The only difference is we will have 5 tiny SAEs added. I have 1 large SAE in there, but he doesn't do anything. He's lazy. I just have to make sure that he doesn't try to predate on baby guppies. So in this tank, he has landed. Or she. I'm not sure. I think it's a male because it's not super big, and usually the females are bigger. Anyway, so what we're going to do is really simple. We're shooting this video, which will have a couple different updates in some other spots. And also, what I'm going to do is take 1 photo every week. We're going to post it on the community tab, just to give a rolling update to see if we can visibly watch the level of damage, so to speak, that these guys are going to do on this tank. Sounds fun, right? Or maybe we should do a short. Should we do a short instead? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Would you prefer to see a photo or a short? Once a week. I think it's fun. We'll call this the Great Algae Cleanup Experiment or something. I don't know. We'll probably find... If you've got a better name, put it down below. I don't got a good name. Usually I'm great at this part. Out the window. Doesn't work. Second update. Brother-in-law James's tank that he scaped, which has that big beautiful sword in it, is getting pretty close to where our final fish are going to start showing up. We've discussed fish, we know what we want, but beforehand, there's this problem. Yeah, look at all that surface algae. Glass, the rocks. Now, while I personally like a little dust algae on my rocks because it looks a little more natural to me, this is a bit much. So, we're fighting that with the other algae crew, some hill stream loaches. Now, we talked about this before. I went to local fish store, and they had a couple different varieties in, and a good friend of mine helped me, and I ended up with Meyer's Eye hill stream loaches, which I think are kind of cool. They're a more pokey-dotty kind of pattern. They're not the typical reticulated hill stream loach. They're a little more elongated, not quite as big like alien face hugger, discus, or like sort of miniature stingray look. They kind of have a more arrowhead look to them, but I think that's what makes them a little cooler. Also, they were the one that had the most, and I could easily get 5. And they're all pretty small, but right away, you can actually see from this shot here that my wife took with her phone, because my camera was like, no, I don't want to focus, of one chomping away almost immediately after it was released in a tank, just like, look at all this algae on the surface. Oh, it's delicious, thank you. Nom, 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 nom. It was pretty great. The final update, heater. For this thing. so we can get guppies in there sooner. What I found by doing some scientific tests with a temperature gun is most of the tanks in my room, if they don't have heat, sit right at about 75 degrees. Usually they're somewhere like 74.8 to about 75.2. It depends on the tank. So like this tank, no heat, 75.2. Fallen Forest, right? The tank that I showed you with the Gary Langai in it sits at 74.6 to 74.8. It depends on when or how long the dehumidifier in the room has been off. Because usually it turns off about part of the way through the day while I'm at work, and I clean it out as soon as I get home. Temperatures don't drop a whole ton in the room, but during the winter, the room temperature average is usually closer to like 76 to 77, and during the summer it gets upwards of about 83 in here. You can imagine that kind of gives some natural shifts over time, which I actually think is very healthy for fish. It's not full-on seasonal change, but some of those temperature changes, especially for a number of different species, can help us simulate seasonal occurrences naturally, and I put this in quotation marks, naturally, in our tanks. And I think that's actually kind of healthy, and so I don't try to like keep my room perfect, but I try to keep it in a like kind of range of temperatures depending on what time of year it is. This tank, 70 degrees. Why? Right over here, through the backside of these tanks, basically, there are a couple of older windows that are a little drafty, and because these tanks sit closest, and this is the lowest tank in the room, our former anoxic tank, it actually sits at the coolest amount of temperature compared to every other tank in the room. So what I want to do is I want to bump that temperature up to about 76 degrees during the winter, and then, maybe let it get to about, say, 78 or so in the summers. That should be really good for our guppies. They sit traditionally at about 78 degrees to 80 degrees, depending on time of year in the guppy mansion. I used to actually, change the temperature a lot more in their tank, but I just decided to leave it pretty stable because I found a relatively stable temp that they do pretty well in. So once we get that a little more temperature aligned, then this is ready for fish. And we can start putting in some of the guppies where I'll hand select the best of the best, and we will begin a new experiment, kind of, sort of. We're just going to try to make sure that we keep the absolute best traits and try to get a little bit more color back into the female tails, or at least more consistency of color, because there is color in 1 out of 2, basically, where they'll have good color in their fins and others just don't really have colors in their fins. And I want to see if I can, through time, breed that back in a little bit through my line by just doing some hand selection, and culling by moving the ones that don't have good color back to the guppy mansion. So that's it. I know a lot of these things are pretty simple. The only thing I have to do is, let's get these guys out of the tank. Yeah, so that's it. This is a really short video. I just want to give a couple updates and a new experiment I wanted to try because I just thought it would be fun. Forgive me for wanting to have fun. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Again, let me know in the comments down below. Short, picture, and what should we call this experiment? That algae cleaner upper, the algae busters? Aww. Somebody's got really good art skills with an SAE can do a faux Ghostbusters album or icon for me. That'd be pretty sweet. Anyway, if you're not subscribed to this channel, consider subscribing. It's one of the best ways to help your small fish tube friends, whether it's informational videos, product reviews, dumb experiments. I do all sorts of different stuff, and I'm going to keep doing more because that's what I find really entertaining in the fish hobby. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.